Welcome and good evening. My name is Terrence Young and I'm head of the English department here at St. Michael's University School. Welcome to parents, teachers, and performers, and friends of St. Michael's University School to what many among us consider one of the highlights of the school year, our annual evening of recitations, our celebrations of the spoken word. Tonight you will hear exquisite poetry in several languages, dramatic monologues, selections from novels, performance art, and even a duet. Our talented presenters are lined up in the order of their appearance, which you can follow in your programs, and they will introduce themselves before beginning. They will. But first, a few thank yous. First of all, to the members of the English department who vetted all the recitations, both in class and during many lunch hours at grade finals. And a special thank you is reserved for Dorothy Hawes and for Robert Common, who have made it their personal goal to give this evening a higher profile in the school and to refine all aspects of the selection process. For them, we are very, very grateful for their efforts. So thank you to those people. We'd like also to thank our musicians for this evening, Vivian Lamb and Emily Jordan, who will be entertaining us, who have entertained us and during the halftime. And also to our video crew, Darren Steinke and Shane Archer, who will record the performances for later viewing on our own SMUS tube. And now, I think our first half will commence, following which will be a brief intermission during which refreshments will be served. Thank you, and please enjoy yourselves.
I'm Kira, and I will be performing a poem called A Sad Child by Margaret Atwood. You're sad because you're sad. It's psychic, it's the age, it's chemical. Go see a shrink, or take a pill, or hug your sadness like an eyeless doll. You need to sleep. Well, all children are sad, but some get over it. Count your blessings. Better than that, buy a hat, buy a coat or pet, or take up dancing to forget. Forget what? Your sadness, your shadow, whatever it was that was done to you. The day of the lawn party, when you came inside flushed with the sun, your mouth sulky with sugar, in your new dress, with the ribbon and the ice cream smear, and you said to yourself in the bathroom, I am not the favorite child. My darling, when it comes right down to it, and the light fails and the fog rolls in, and you're trapped in your overturned body underneath the blanket or burning car, and the red flame is seeping out of you and igniting the tarmac beside your head, or else the floor, or else the pillow. None of us is, or else we all are. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Today I'm going to perform "Oh Captain, My Captain" by Walt Whitman. Oh Captain, my Captain, our fearful trip is done. The ship has weathered every wreck, the prize we sought is won. The port is near, the bells I hear, the people all exulting. While follow eyes, the keel, the steady vessel, grim and daring. But oh, heart, 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 oh, the bleeding drops of red, where on the deck my captain lies, fallen cold and dead. Oh, Captain, my Captain, rise up and hear the bells. Rise up, for you the flag is flung, for you the bugle trills, for you bouquets and ribbon wreaths, for you the shores are crowding, for you they call, the swaying mass, their eager faces turning. Here, Captain, dear Father, these are beneath your head. It is some dream that on the deck you've fallen cold and dead. My Captain does not answer. His lips are pale and still. My father does not feel my arm. He has no pulse nor will. The ship is anchored safe and sound, its voyage closed and done. From fearful trip, the victor ship comes in with object won. It's out, O shores, and ring no bells. But I, with mournful tread, walk the deck, my captain lies, fallen cold and dead. Thank you.
I'm Sophie George, and I'll be doing an excerpt from Oscar Wilde's The Importance of Being Earnest. This is the scene where Lady Bracknell is interviewing Jack for his suitability for marriage to her daughter, Gwendolen. You may take a seat, Mr. Worthing. Thank you, Lady Bracknell. I prefer to stand. I feel bound to inform you that you are not down on my list of eligible young men, though I have the same list as the dear Duchess of Bracknell has, Bolton has. We work together, in fact. However, I am quite prepared to enter your name should your answers prove what a really affectionate mother requires. Do you smoke? Well, yes, I must admit that I smoke. I am glad to hear it. A man should never have no occupation. There are far too many idle men in London these days, as it is. How old are you? I am 29. A very good age to be married at. I have always been of the opinion that when a man desires to be married, he should know either everything or nothing. Which do you know? I know nothing, Lady Bracknell. I am glad to hear it. I do not approve of anything that tampers with natural ignorance. Ignorance is like a delicate exotic fruit. Touch it and the bloom is gone. The whole theory of modern education is radically unsound. Fortunately, in England, at any rate, education produces no effect whatsoever. If it did, it might prove a serious danger to the upper classes and possibly lead to acts of violence in Grosvenor Square. Do you own any land? I have a country house with some land attached to it, of course. A country house? How many bedrooms? Well, that can be cleared up later. You have a townhouse, I hope. A girl with a simple, unspoilt nature like Gwendolen can hardly be expected to reside in the country. Now, on to my matters. Are your parents living? I am afraid I have lost both my parents. To lose one parent, Mr. Worthing, may be regarded as a misfortune. To lose both looks like carelessness. Who was your father? Was he born into what the radical papers call the purple of commerce, or did he rise from the ranks of aristocracy? I am afraid I really don't know. The fact is, Lady Bracknell, I said I had lost both my parents. It would be nearer the truth to say that my parents seem to have lost me. I was found. Found? late Mr. Thomas Cardew, a gentleman of a very kind and charitable disposition, took me in and gave me the name of Worthing, as he happened to have a first-class ticket for Worthing in his pocket at the time. Worthing is a place in Sussex. It is a seaside resort. And where did this kind old gentleman with the ticket in his pocket for this resort find you? In a handbag. A handbag? Yes, a somewhat large black leather handbag with handles attached. A perfectly ordinary handbag, in fact. In what locality did this Mr. Thomas Cardew find this ordinary handbag? In the cloakroom at Victoria Station. It was given to him in mistake for his own. The cloakroom at Victoria Station? Yes, the Brighton line. The line is immaterial, Mr. Worthing. I confess, I feel somewhat bewildered by what you have just told me. To be born, or at any rate, bred, in a handbag, seems to me to display a contempt for the common and ordinary decencies of family life, reminding one of the worst excesses of the French Revolution. And I suppose you know what that unfortunate movement led to. May I ask you then what you would advise me to do? I need hardly say that I would do anything in the world to ensure Gwendolyn's happiness. I would advise you, Mr. Worthing, to try and acquire some relations as soon as possible, and to make a definite effort to produce at least one parent of either sex before the season is quite over. Well, I really don't see how I could manage that. I could produce the handbag at any moment, if you like. It is in my dressing room at home. I really think that should satisfy you, Lady Bracknell. Me, sir? What has it to do with me? You can hardly imagine that I and Lord Bracknell would dream of allowing our only daughter, a girl brought up with the utmost care, to marry into a cloakroom and form an alliance with a parcel. Good day, Mr. Worthing.
My name is Simone, and I will be reciting If I Should Have a Daughter by Sarah Kay. If I should have a daughter, instead of Mom, she's going to call me Point B, because that way she knows that no matter what happens, at least she can always find her way to me. And I'm going to paint the solar system on the back of her hand, so she has to learn the entire universe before she can say, oh, I know that at the back of her hand. She's going to learn that this life will hit you hard in the face, wait for you to get back up so it can kick you in the stomach. But getting the wind knocked out of you is the only way to remind your lungs how much they like the taste of air. There is hurt here that cannot be fixed by band-aids or poetry. So the first time she realizes that Wonder Woman isn't coming, I'll make sure she knows she doesn't have to wear the cape all by herself. Because no matter how wide you stretch your fingers, your hands will always be too small to catch all the pain you want to heal. Believe me, I've tried. And baby, I'll tell her, don't keep your nose up in the air like that. I know that trick. You're just smelling for smoke so you can follow the trail back to a burning house, so you can find the boy who lost everything in the fire, to see if you can save him. Or else find the boy who lit the fire in the first place, to see if you can change him. But I know she will anyway. So instead, I'll always keep an extra supply of chocolate and rain boots nearby, because there's no heartbreak that chocolate can't fix. Okay, there's a few heartbreaks that chocolate can't fix, but that's what the rain boots are for, because rain will wash away everything if you let it. I want her to see the world through the underside of a glass-bottom boat, to look through a magnifying glass at the galaxies that exist on the pinpoint of the human mind. Because that's how my mom taught me. That there'll be days like this. There'll be days like this, my mama said, when you'll open your hand to catch and wind up with only blisters and bruises. When you'll step out of the phone booth and try to fly, and the very people you want to save are the ones standing on your cape. When your boots will fill with rain and you'll be up to your knees in disappointment. And those are the very days you will have all the more reason to say thank you. Because there is nothing more beautiful than the way the ocean refuses to stop kissing the shoreline, no matter how many times it's sent away. You will put the wind in win some, lose some. You will put the star in starting over and over. And no matter how many landmines erupt in a minute, be sure your mind lands on the beauty of this funny place called life. Remember that good things come in threes, and so do bad things. And always apologize when you've done something wrong, but don't you ever apologize for the way your eyes refuse to stop shining. Your voice is small, but don't ever stop singing. And when they finally hand you heartbreak, slip hatred and war under your doorstep, and hand you handouts on street corners of cynicism and defeat, you tell them that they really ought to meet your mother. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Cindy Kim, and today I'll be reciting a poem called This is for the Ladies by Amal Kassir. And some things you should know about this poem: the poet is of Syrian descent, and in the poem she'll mention her religious headdress and her shirt. And this poem is for the ladies and also for everyone. I represent the political party that stands on behalf of the half-naked Barbie. I represent the woman of 21st century, and this woman is everything except for her dignity. I represent the oppression that's been painted pink, wear my body wings, and the voice just shrinks. I represent the fact that I don't even have to think, because I can manipulate a gentleman with just my flirty wink. I represent the degrading that we, the women, are facing on our own accord. I'm sad with the so-called feminists that are also fashion magazine whores. I'm marching with the ladies who fight for their right, except I think they're slowing me down just a little because I think their jeans are too tight. I represent the rape, the pain, the sliced wrists a prostitute's pay, the boyfriend's choke, his many, many games, sticking my finger down my throat so that I can look okay. All of the tears and all of the cries that came from the hardship of trying to please the guys. I represent the freedom of choosing to be enslaved by this patriarchal system that robs me day by day. I represent the hatred I've got for the mirror and the naked girl on the front cover and the cancer for the big breast endeavor, and I represent the advertisement that claims it's all better. Because I'm the revolution of womankind. I'm here to change a system that's kept us blind. Take off all your clothes, ladies, and you will live the life. Except they're just a couple of guidelines that you should probably know. You gotta flirt, walk, talk, dress, know exactly where to go. Here, take my copy of Cosmo. 50 things he wants to see in bed. 50 things I think you misread. You're doing something wrong. You're not skinny enough, and your chest is way too small. Plus, you're covering too much. Darling, I really don't see how you could move along without investing in this kind of stuff, because otherwise, how is anyone supposed to validate that flesh? By the way, show a little more flesh. I really do apologize. I know I'm not showing enough skin for you, and I should know better than to think this body is mine. I was sent down here to live out the secret of Victoria. I have the right to succumb to your fashion magazines and submit myself to your fantasies, but if I choose anything other than that, then I guess I'm oppressed. I have the right to wear whatever I want, but only if it has the length of a mini dress. But this shirt here that's to my knees and hides my figure, they want me to get it off my body. How am I going to be like the pretty airhead figure? And these colored scarves don't seem to aesthetically cut it. They want to see extensions, hair dyes. They want to see my hair gutted. And my posture is not womanly, apparently. And my face isn't the prettiest, unfortunately. But, I was just wondering if someone could please tell me. Who the hell decided I was ugly? Is my face really not clear enough for you to just look at me? Do I really need to take off all my clothes to get a job in any industry? Why, are enough to just be clean instead of having to paint them with bad shit to enhance the green. Call me a fool, because I'm not drowning in any man's drool. But I will never be on my knees to be on your pretty and pink commercial footstool. I have so much sadness for my ladies. Where is the respect? Why have you forgotten your value and instead have went? They've drugged you with the solution that you're not good enough, but ladies, break away. This pain doesn't have to last forever. Follow me, I'll take you on this liberating endeavor, because I represent the rights to the body and not stand on behalf of the body's liberty. I represent the real woman in the most raw form, with no need for cosmetics or weight loss reform. And mainstream, here's to you. You can call me a girl who's oppressed, but I assure you, the weight of that institutionalized word will not make me expose my chest. I am already perfect, and I will cover so you don't see I am damn happy living with my dignity. Thank you.
I'm Michelle Song, and today I'll be reciting a poem called OCD. And it's about a man who suffers from obsessive compulsive disorder and how that affects his relationships. The first time I saw her, everything in my head went quiet. All the tics, the constantly refreshing images just disappeared. When you have obsessive compulsive disorder, you don't really get quiet moments. Even in bed, I'm thinking, did I lock doors yes? Did I wash my hands yes? Did I lock doors yes? Did I wash my hands yes? But when I saw her, the only thing I could think about was the hairpin curve of her lips, or the eyelash on her cheek, the eyelash on her cheek, the eyelash on her cheek. I knew I had to talk to her. I asked her out 6 times in 30 seconds. She said yes after the 3rd one, but none of them felt right, so I had to keep going. On our first date, I spent more time organizing my meal by color than actually eating it, or freaking talking to her. She loved it. She loved that I had to kiss her goodbye 16 times, or 24 times if it was Wednesday. She loved that it took me forever to walk home because there are lots of cracks in our sidewalk. When we moved in together, she said she felt safe, like no one would ever rob us because I definitely locked the door 18 times. I would watch her mouth when she talked, when she talked, when she talked, when she talked, when she talked. When she said she loved me, her mouth would curl up at the edges. At night, she'd lay in bed and watch me turn all the lights off and on and off and on and off and on and off and on and off. When I closed my eyes, she'd see the days and nights passing in front of her. Some mornings, I would start kissing her goodbye, but she'd just leave because I was just making her late for work. When I stopped in front of a crack in the sidewalk, she'd just keep walking. When she said she loved me, her mouth was a straight line. She said I was taking up too much of her time. Last week, she started sleeping at her mother's place. She said she shouldn't have let me get so attached to her, that this whole thing was a mistake. But how can it be a mistake when I don't have to wash my hands after I touched her? Love is not a mistake, and it's killing me that she can just run away from this, and I just can't. I can't go out and find someone new because I always think of her. Usually, when I obsess over things, I see germs sneaking into my skin. I see myself crushed by an endless succession of cars, and she was the first beautiful thing I ever got stuck on. I want to wake up every morning imagining how her hands hold the steering wheel, how she turns shower knobs like she's opening a safe, how she blows out candles, blows out candles, blows out candles, blows out candles, blows. Now, I just think about who else is kissing her. I can't breathe because he only kisses her once. He doesn't care if it's perfect. I want her back so bad. I leave the door locked. I leave the lights on. Thank you.
My name is Molly Robson, and I am doing a piece taken from The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. Van Houten. I'm a good person, but a horrid writer. You're a horrid person, but a good writer. I think we'd make a good team. I don't want to ask any favors, but if you have time, and from what I saw, you have plenty, I was wondering if you could write a eulogy for Hazel. I've got notes and everything, but if you could just make it into a coherent whole, or whatever. Or even just tell me what I should say differently. Here's the thing about Hazel. Almost everyone is obsessed with leaving a mark upon the world, bequeathing a legacy, outlasting death. We all want to be remembered. I do too. That's what bothers me most, is being another unremembered casualty in the ancient and inglorious war against disease. I want to be remembered. But Van Houten, the marks humans leave are too often scars. You create a hideous minimal, or start a coup, or try to become a rock star, and you think, they'll remember me now, but A, they don't, and B, all you leave behind are more scars. Your coup becomes a dictatorship. Your minimal becomes a liaison. Okay, so maybe I'm not such a bad writer, but I can't pull my ideas together, Van Houten. My thoughts are stars I cannot fathom into constellations. We are like dogs squirting on fire hydrants. We poison the groundwater with our toxic pee, marking everything mine in a ridiculous attempt to survive our deaths. I can't stop peeing on fire hydrants. I know it is silly and useless, epically useless in my current state, but I am an animal like any other. Hazel is different. She walks lightly, old man. She walks lightly upon the earth. Hazel knows the truth, that we are as likely to hurt the universe as we are to help it, and we're not likely to do either. People will say it's sad she leaves a lesser scar, that fewer remember her, that she was loved deeply, but not widely. But it's not sad, Van Houten. It's triumphant. It's heroic. Isn't that what real heroism is? As the doctors say, first, do no harm. The real heroes aren't the people doing things anyway. The real heroes are the people noticing things, paying attention. The guy who invented the smallpox vaccine didn't actually invent anything. He just noticed that people with cowpox didn't get smallpox. What else? She is so beautiful. You don't get tired of looking at her. You never worry that she is smarter than you. You know she is. She's funny without ever being mean. I love her. I am so lucky to love her, Van Houten. You don't get to choose whether or not you get hurt in this world, old man, but you do have some say in who hurts you. I like my choices. I hope she likes hers.
Hi, I'm Jordan Kerr, and I'm going to be performing Stuart McLean's A Trip to Quebec. Now, my recitation does need a little bit of explaining. So, it's a grade 8 trip to Quebec. And the main character's name is Sam, and he's with his two best friends, Murphy and Peter. Peter's mom has given him just a little bit too much money for his trip, so he's bought troll dolls. It's kind of important. Okay. At 10 o'clock that night, Mr. Reynolds went from room to room, checking that everyone was present and accounted for. He had a roll of masking tape in his pocket. As he left each room, he tossed the masking tape in the air and caught it. "I'm putting a strip of tape across your door," he said. Then he told them about the all-night security guard. If the guard saw the tape on their door had been broken, then he would know that they had left their rooms. They didn't want to know how much trouble they'd be in if that happened. "Is the guard armed?" asked Peter Moore.
He's a Kalashnikov, said Mr. Reynolds. He's an Israeli.
Then he said, lights out at 10:30, right? Yes, Mr. Reynolds. Yes, sir. We're pretty tired, sir. Good night, boys. Good night, Mr. Reynolds.
10:30. There wasn't a light out by 2:30. There was much too much to do. In Eleanor Michelin's room, 4 little girls had set up a spa and were attempting to turn the bathroom into a steam room by running the shower at full hot. 2 floors above, in room 421, Mark Portnoy, the only kid with a bed to himself, was about to show his 3 goggle-eyed roommates, who were sleeping in the other bed, how to make a blowtorch, using a can of hairspray and a cigarette lighter in the shape of a cannon he bought on the Rue Saint-Jean. There was a marathon Xbox tournament underway the room below them. And on the top floor, in Sam and Murphy's room, a 2-foot troll was being lowered out the window on a curtain sash. At any moment, it would come even with the window on the girls' room, 1 floor below, its red eyes flashing menacingly. All this, of course, was happening behind the closed doors. So at 11 o'clock, when Pierre reported to Mr. Reynolds that all was quiet, Mr. Reynolds nodded and said, "You can go then." Mr. Reynolds took a look down the hotel corridor. He wasn't naive enough to believe that everyone was asleep. But as long as the kids were in the rooms, he was going to try his best not to think too hard about what might be happening in them. He stepped outside for a moment and looked at the hotel from the street. He would have seen that the Pension de Vauquebec was lit up like a party ship. There was steam billowing from a bathroom. What looked like a flamethrower was belching occasionally from the 4th floor, and a troll with flashing eyes was dancing around in the night sky. Mr. Reynolds missed all this, however, and was sound asleep by midnight, which was when Charlotte Groves got bored of her pedicure, picked up the remote control, and discovered Canal 2, the Blue Channel. It was Eleanor Michelin who worked out how you could call from room to room without going through the switchboard, and word spread like wildfire. Pretty soon, every television in every room was switched to Canal 2, and the educational component to the trip to Quebec began in earnest. "That's not real, is it?" said Peter Moore, moving closer to the television. "Thank you."
Jenny Hawes, and for my recitation, I will be doing an excerpt from the book The Anthologist by Nicholson Baker. In this passage, he laments the fact that he is not a great poet and creates a story of running into Edgar Allan Poe. Here's the thing. I'm basically willing to do anything. I'm basically willing to do anything to come up with a good poem. That is what I want. It is my goal in life, and it hasn't happened. I've waited patiently. I've waited impatiently. Sometimes I have striven. I've had some acceptable poems that have been accepted in the literal sense, but not one single really good poem. When I look at the lives of the other poets, I understand what's wrong with me. They were willing to make sacrifices that I'm not willing to make. They were so tortured, so messed up. I'm only a little messed up. I'm tortured to the point where I don't sleep very well sometimes, and I don't answer mail as I should. Sometimes I feel a languor of spirit when I get an email asking me to do something. Also, I've run up a substantial credit card debt. But that's not real self-torture. I mean, if you stand back from my life, just a little, maybe 35 yards, you'll see that I'm a completely conventional person. I drive mostly within the fog lines. My life is seldom in crisis. But any little crisis of mine does not resemble the crises of Ted Rothke, or Tennyson, or Elizabeth Barrett Browning, or Poe. I remember one time I was in a laundromat. I was in there doing my laundry, and I look over, and there's this guy there, this little guy, kind of pale pasty looking, but moving with a methodical grace. And I look over and I said, Ed Poe. He looks up slowly, cavernously. He peers at me closely and says, Paul Chowder. I said, yes, Ed. How have you been? Been a long time. He nods. I said, I see you're folding some underpants there. He said, yes, I'm doing my laundry. You? I'm doing my laundry too. Can I venture to ask how the poetry's going? He said, it's going pretty well. Pretty well. I wrote a poem, and I got paid for it, and it was put in the newspaper. I said, that's fantastic, Ed. What was it called? He said, it's called The Raven. I said, wow, Ed, great title. What's it about? He said, it's about a man who has a visit from a raven. I said, wow, sounds really promising. What does the raven stand for? Death and fate and horror and government wiretapping and stuff like that? He just looks at me. He wasn't about to explicate his poem for me, which I understand. So I grabbed my bag of laundry, said, good seeing you, Ed. Take care. He said, you too. Watch out for the big swinging blade. And I walked out, off down the street, and that was the time I ran into Edgar Allan Poe. Thank you.
My name is Noelle Skillings, and I will be reciting a passage from Open Heart Runner by Mr. Marshall. He's a teacher from our school who had a near-death experience while running a marathon, and this passage reflects what he's learned from it. What did you learn this year? My friend's sudden question caught me by surprise. What do you mean, I asked. You almost died a year ago, he said. You must have learned something this year, thinking about the events. I had most certainly thought about the events. In fact, I've thought of little else during the year, but I hadn't contemplated the lessons of almost dying. So I sat down, I thought, and I wrote. I learned that there are many paths to understanding, that the flight of a bird is as moving as the smile of a child, and that many people work too hard. I learned to sleep more. I learned that the brain can heal over time, that sunshine both heals and harms, and that the heart is more than just a muscle. I learned that there's as much art in medicine as there is science. I learned that some of our most profound setbacks are completely unexpected. I learned that change teaches us, failure teaches us, and that time spent reflecting is time well spent. And the contemplation gained by raking leaves can't be duplicated using a leaf blower. I learned that wearing my emotions on my sleeves is better than keeping my emotions in check. I learned to cry. I learned to smile. I learned to listen. I learned to sit. I learned that time is precious and that television robs us of time. I learned that writing can heal and that children give us hope. I learned that time passes too quickly as we age. I learned that the true pleasures of life don't come in megabytes and horsepower. And the closer we come to death, somehow the clearer life becomes. I learned that the truest messages of life come from the unlikeliest sources, and that feeling loved is more powerful than death. I learned that death isn't negative. I learned that our fear of death is really a fear of an unlived life. I learned that as we move away from death, we miss the messages of life. That life is not easy when we're too immersed in it. But life is simple when we treat it simply. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Douglas Peerless, and I'll be doing an excerpt from the Diary Van Frank, which SMUS is actually presenting next week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Tickets at ticketrocket.org. This is said by my character that I'm playing Mr. Frank. And a quick note, I'm saying some words differently, like Anne is Anna and Peter is Peter, and some German words are different, so just bear with me. Westerbork, a barren heath, wooden towers where our jailers stand guard. The 8 of us crammed into prison barrack 67, betrayed. We never know by whom. Our last month together. Anna and Peter are walking hand in hand between the barracks and barbed wire. Edith worrying about the children, washing underclothing in murky water, numb. Margaret silent, staring at nothing. Our last days on Dutch soil. Late August, Paris freed, Brussels, Antwerp. But for us, it is too late. Tuesday, September 3rd, 1944, 1,000 of us herded into cattle cars on the last transport to leave Westerbork for the extermination camps. The train. 3 days, 3 nights. In the middle of the 3rd night, Auschwitz. Separation, men from women. Edith, Margaret, Anna. My family! Never again. Selection. Half our transport killed in the gas chambers. One day, Peter and I, as a group of men, march away. His father among them. Gassed! Peter on the death march to Mauthausen. Dead 3 days before the British arrive. His mother. Auschwitz, Bergen-Belsen, Buchenwald, Theresienstadt! Date of death, unknown. Mr. Dussel dies in Neuengamme. January 3rd, 1945, I am freed from Auschwitz. I know nothing of Edith and the children. And then I learn Edith died in Birkenau of grief, hunger, exhaustion. The winter of 45, typhus breaks out in Bergen-Belsen, killing thousands of prisoners. Among them, Margaret. Anna's friend Hannah Lee sees Anna through the barbed wire, naked, her head shaved, covered with lice. I don't have anyone anymore, she weeps. A few days later, Anna dies. My daughter's bodies dumped into mass graves just before the camp is liberated. Thank you.
I get to go after that. Fantastic!
Okay, so my name's Sarah. I'm doing a poem from the book by Colleen Hoover called Point of Retreat. So in this poem, this is the main character, her little brother. This is his friend. So this girl, she is incredibly intelligent and she's very smart, very opinionated. But because of this, she gets badly bullied at school. And she goes and tells her teacher or like caregiver, it's kind of complicated, But she tells Miss Brill this, and Miss Brill's like, oh, you're being a baby. This is not what's happening. Suck it up. So this poem is her one chance to kind of tell off the people who are bullying her. And also something that you need to know before I begin is she doesn't believe in swear words. She believes that any word with the right, said the right way, can be a swear word. So in this poem, she uses the word butterfly. So when she says like, butterfly you, she's really saying, yeah. Okay, so, butterfly. What a beautiful creature. What a delicate word. Delicate, like the cruel words that flow right out of your mouth and the food that flies right out of your hands. Does it make you feel better? Does it make you feel good? Does picking on a girl make you more of a man? I'm standing up for myself like I should have done before. I'm not putting up with your butterfly anymore. I would like to extend to others what others have extended to me. Butterfly you, Miss Brill. Butterfly you, Mark. Butterfly you, Brennan. And butterfly you, Colby. I have something to say. And I'm not referring to the bullies or the ones they pursue. I am referring to the ones who just stand by. The ones that don't take up for us who cry. The ones who just turn a blind eye. After all, it's not you it's happening to. It's not you who's being bullied, and it's not you who's being rude, but it is your feet not taking a stand. It is your arm not lending a hand. It is your heart not giving a damn. So take up for your friends, take up for yourself. I challenge you to be someone who doesn't give in. Don't give in. Don't let them win. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jerry. Today I'm going to recite an ancient Chinese poem called The Whole River Red, written in the 12th century by a poet called Yue Fei, who was a national hero and warrior in the Southern Song dynasty. And in this poem, he expresses his extreme anger and hate towards the Tartars who occupied the northern China at that time, and his strong desire and confidence to recapture the lands and defeat the enemies. I'll recite this poem in Chinese first and then English. 满江红，岳飞。怒发冲冠凭栏处，潇潇雨歇。抬望眼，仰天长啸，壮怀激烈。30功名尘与土，8000里路云和月。莫等闲，白了少年头，空悲切。靖康耻，犹未雪。陈子恨何时灭？驾长车，踏破贺兰山阙，壮志饥尝胡虏肉，笑谈渴饮匈奴血。待从头，收拾旧山河，朝天阙。待从头，收拾旧山河，朝天阙。The whole river red, Yue Fei. Rage bristling under the cab, I lean against the railing. The rushing rain has ceased. Lifting my eyes towards the sky, I let out a battle cry. My blood is boiling. 30 years, rank and honor, just so much dust. 800 leagues, traveling with the moon and clouds. Do not let it slip away. When a young man's head turns gray, regret will be too late. The national insult is yet to be avenged. Your servant's shame, when will it be erased? Let us ride the long chariots to crush those mountain strongholds. Glorious quest, to feast on the flesh of the invaders. We laugh and chat and quench our thirst with Tartar blood. Let us start to take back our rivers and mountains and report to the heavenly palace. Let us start to take back our rivers and mountains and report to the heavenly palace. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Sophie Butterfield, and this is Daddy, Are You Proud of Me by Nigo True. There are things our parents told us growing up they probably think we forgot. But as kids, we soaked in those words you said when you were cross. You see, I forgive, I don't forget. And I live, I don't regret. And they may call me selfish for writing this, you see, but I've just got one question and then maybe I'd be free. Daddy, are you proud of me? Juice in my cup, holding back tears in my eyes. I heard you and Mom arguing again nonstop through the night. I know it's about money, we've never really had it down, and I'm too young to work, so I'm considering crime. I figured if I can provide for me, then you won't have to. I used to take your money when it was lying on the dresser. Maybe this is my fault too. I don't know. Maybe I can buy myself my own school uniform, even give back to you. And if I'm honest, I don't want to live that life. But I don't know. Maybe if you and Mom had money, you'd be around this time. Maybe you'd be here on my birthday. Maybe Mom won't cry. So I'm looking in the mirror like this ain't drug money. This is Dad couldn't do it. I still have to feed Mom money, so I feed me now so you and Mom could breathe. Daddy, are you proud of me? See, spending money and spending time are not the same thing, because Mom played Dad while you were looking after other women's kids. And you can skip the once-a-year calls on my birthday. I'd rather know if you meant to have me in the first place. See, Mom's always working to provide, and sometimes she goes over the top with how she disciplines me, but then I sit and think she had to play the role of a man and a woman without the help of a guy. See, sometimes I wish you were here, but it's better if you're not, if I'm real with it, because you claim to love me, but I saw you constantly make Mom upset and then one day disappear and left me to deal with it. And you want to know why I'm an idiot. Because I'm with someone now, and they're just like you. Shouting abuse with that same tongue, ask me what's wrong an hour later, just like you. Doesn't understand that respect and fear are not the same thing, just like you. And when my friends are telling me I need to up and leave, I bring it back to convo and I start to sit and think that maybe letting go isn't being free, because this must be love. I mean, I learned it from you. And as stupid as it sounds, I still want you to be proud you had me. So I've just got one question and then maybe I'll be free. Daddy, are you proud of me? I never knew you growing up. Mom never really mentioned you. And it's not that I hate you, but if I had to choose Father of the Year between you and Mom, I'd choose everyone but you. You told me be everything I can be when I finally met you. I used to sit and think I want to be a father, but not like you. Grow up to be a man, but not like you. You know how many men would have killed to have a wife like yours, but not a dad like you. So I'm the man now. And if anyone tells me I resemble my father in the slightest, I tell them I'm everything that's not you. I am nothing like you. So I don't have one question. I'm already free. I couldn't give a damn if you're proud of me. Whiskey in my cup, holding back tears in my eyes. I watched you and learned how to keep all my emotions inside. You know, smile around guests but have no emotion with your family. Some call it pride. People who meet me usually ask me how I keep happy all the time. I'm the one that makes my friends laugh. I'm the one they come to for advice. I never tell you what's wrong. I just respond with, I'm cool. Not because you're a bad guy, Dad. I just don't want to disappoint you. Because when you say I can tell you anything, I know in my head I can, because I have seen how you respond to the smaller things, and I don't want to take that chance. See, I've got 100 questions I wish I could ask, but I just keep myself to myself and let the memories pass, headphones in, shut out from the world. I wish I could have hired you as a kid and done the things that fathers and sons did. I always looked up to you, but you were always out of reach. I saw you as a hero, but some heroes are unseen. You taught me to be hard. And you taught me to believe I'm the man now, Dad. People listen when I speak, but that's not enough now, is it? Because I see you every day, and I still don't know you. You see, I studied hard, and I eventually worked, even helped out a little bit in your church. Respect and fear are not the same thing. At least I learned that for free. So I've just got one question, and then maybe I'd be free. Daddy, are you proud of me? Whiskey in my cup, holding back tears in my eyes. Everyone's complaining about their dad. I just wish mine was alive. I never had a lot of memories, but I cherish what I remember. Your sister is always telling me stories about you. I know she won't forget you. See, all these relatives say I look just like you. And sometimes I need guidance, so I ask myself, what would you do? And if I'm honest, I didn't get to know you the way I should have known you, and that's what's really getting to me. But I've done a lot since, Dad. Mom says you'd be proud. But we're still in that same flat. One day we'll be out. And I'm not little no more. If only you could see, sitting by your grave, no one else but you and me. And I wish I could just ask you one more question, and then maybe I'd be free. Daddy, are you proud of me? Thank you.
And I'm going to be reciting a monologue from Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. There was I, mounted aloft, condemned to stand on that stool for the remainder of the day. I, who had said that I could not bear the shame of standing on my natural feet in the middle of the room, was now exposed to general view on a pedestal of infamy. What my sensations were, no language can describe. But just as they all rose, stifling my breath and constricting my throat, a girl came up and passed me. In passing, she lifted her eyes. What a strange light inspired them. What an extraordinary sensation that ran through me. How the new feeling bore me up. It was as if a martyr, a hero, had passed a slave or victim and imparted strength in the transit. I mastered the rising hysteria, lifted up my head, and took a firm stand on the stool. Helen Burns asked some slight questions about her work of Miss Smith, was chidden for the triviality of her inquiry, returned to her place, and smiled at me as she again went by. What a smile! I remember it now, and I know that it was the effluence of fine intellect, of true courage. It lit up her marked lineaments, her thin face, her sunken gray eyes. like a reflection from the aspect of an angel. Yet at that moment, Helen Burns wore on her arm the untidy badge. Scarcely an hour ago, I had heard her condemned by Miss Scatcherd to a dinner of bread and water on the morrow because she had blotted an exercise in copying it out. Such is the imperfect nature of man. Such spots are there on the disk of a curious planet. But eyes like Miss Scatcherd's can only see those minute defects and are blind to the full brightness of the orb.
I'm Christina Sipos, and I'm doing an excerpt from the play When It Rains Gasoline by Jason B. Martin. Do you realize that tonight is the most important night of my life? Oh my God, do you? It's like totally more important than cheer tryouts, more important than my first kiss, the first day of middle school, the first day of high school, the first day of driver's ed. It's more important than my driver's license, more important than any of my ex-boyfriends, more important than any of my current boyfriends. I mean, friend. It is the pinnacle of the high school experience. The prom night. The night that I will remember for the rest of my life. I spent $600 on my dress. Anyway, Jane Hickman spent $1,000. She's a total daddy's girl. For her 16th birthday, her dad bought her a brand new Ford Explorer. For my 16th birthday, all I got was a 2-year-old Taurus. What? Some girls are just born with a silver spoon in their mouth. She's such a snobby little rich girl, a little rich girl whose parents buy her anything she wants. Her parents have a swimming pool and a tennis court. All we have is a jacuzzi. One time she told me she liked my outfit. She's such a snob. I know what she meant. She was only making fun of my new designer jeans. She thinks they're out of fashion already. Oh well, I'm not gonna let Jane Hickman ruin the most important night of my life. My $600 dress is way more stylish than that overpriced rag she's gonna wear. I'm gonna be homecoming royalty for sure. Homecoming queen, even. I hate Jane Hickman. Hickman, because she's always got a hickey on her neck. That little bitchy mama better not be getting on the royal court. I'd just kill myself if she was homecoming queen. I'd kill myself. It's bad enough her dress costs more. It's bad enough she's got a newer car. It's bad enough she has a swimming pool and a tennis court. Kate, my parents. I can't believe you're related to my mom. She's so lame. At least you have money. We sure don't. Why don't we have a swimming pool and a tennis court? My mom's so lazy, all she does is sit around at the computer. My dad's never around. He's always at the office. Like if he was at the office, he'd be making money, right? Maybe he needs to get button gear and buy his daughter a $1,600 dress so she doesn't look like a bag lady at the prom. That's what I'm going to look like, a bag lady. Jane Hickman is going to be prom queen for sure. This is going to be the worst night of my life.
Hi, I'm Trina Gordon-Pogue, and I'll be reciting an excerpt from Floating Like a Goat by Juji Gardner. Dear Miss Subramaniam, it may strike you as ridiculous, as it did my husband, that I lose several nights' sleep over the fact that Georgia is not yet meeting expectations in art. It's only art. My husband told me she's only in grade 1. But lose sleep I did, and in fact, I am now in such a deeply caffeinated fugue state that I fear my letter to you may come off as intemperate. That is not my intent. Please note that I'm not suggesting Georgia is some kind of artistic genius or even has any particular talent. This is a defense of artistic expression, not of my daughter's abilities. Or rather, of art itself. Your penchant for feather dream catcher earrings and tight sequin t-shirts bearing the names of various headbanger acts has not gone unnoticed among the parents. My husband, in particular, seems more inclined to pick Georgia up this year than he did last, when she was in Mrs. Tam's kindergarten class, where, FYI, Georgia did manage to fully meet expectations in art. I take it you may think this gives you a bohemian or free-spirited air, but bohemian resides not merely in costume, Miss Supermanium. There was a time where I gladly would have sold my soul to curry a particular favor with a curatorial demagogue, but I can assure you that even back then, I never would have stooped to impose strictures on others. A free-spirited woman does not make boys and girls form separate lines before entering the classroom. She does not put restrictions on conversation during snack time, and she most certainly does not insist that when 6-year-old children draw animals or people, their feet must be touching the ground. When my daughter informed me of this rule, despite the tears of frustration puckering her drawing of our late cat O'Keefe, I couldn't suppress a snort. Not an attractive habit, I admit, and one I'm trying to rein in after a particularly ill-timed one at my husband's concerted party fundraiser. I blame the poached salmon with the dillsbury. I guess she's never heard of Chagall, I told Georgia, trying to seem offhand. As I know, it is considered verboten to undermine a teacher's authority. Georgia, ever curious, wanted to know more, so I hauled out my dusty gardener's Art Through the Ages, only to find that the small black and white photograph of the crucifixion did little to convey the intensity of color and vision and joie de vivre that Chagall's work does. The internet proved a much more satisfying resource, as it frequently does these days. Thank you.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, was only the first half. Let's give a big round of applause to all of us.
Well, I'm Claire Williams, and I am presenting a recitation from the play A Loss of Roses by William Inga. I am playing Lila, and she's a small-town southern actress, and she's explaining to her best friend Helen why she's hesitant to get married for the second time. Helen, I can't really tell you what my marriage to Ed Comiskey was like. You've never known people like those Comiskey brothers. They're just out of another world entirely. And you wouldn't believe the things I told you. Well, Ed was very sweet to me, but he was weak. You see, the other Comiskey, Vincent, wasn't Ed's real brother. No, they called their show the Comiskey Brothers Comedians, but Vincent wasn't Ed's brother at all. Vincent was Ed's father. But I didn't know it for quite a while after we were married. Then I found out old Vincent Comiskey dyed his hair to keep the gray from showing. He wanted to stay young and keep on playing the leading man. Vincent was the real boss of the show. And a few months after we were married, he started sending Ed out on booking trips. Ed wasn't a very good actor. And then, when Ed was gone, old Vincent started coming to my room trying to force himself on me. Now, I told you you've never heard of people like them. Oh, he was a horrible old man. I couldn't stand him. Oh, Mrs. Comiskey knew all about him. She didn't care what he did. She was in love with another man, a man who played the xylophone between the acts. And he had a wife, too, and 2 little kids. And the xylophone player's wife was in love with the crew boss, the man who had charge of putting up the tent and taking it down. I told you wouldn't believe me. We were in a new town every week, Helen, and I never knew anyone. But old Vincent knew everyone in every town we went to. And people just loved him, too. I couldn't have gone to the police and told them to arrest Vincent Comiskey. They would have arrested me for being a troublemaker. And I tried to tell Ed when he got back from his first booking trip, but he wouldn't believe me. He didn't want to believe me. He was scared of his old man. And he wouldn't know how to protect me anyway. It almost made me sorry for Ed. Oh, it's not your fault I married him. You couldn't have known all this would happen, living out there in that little Oklahoma town where everyone was so honest and friendly. We could never have known there were people like Vincent Comiskey in the world. Sometimes I feel all men are like that. Finally, I just ran away one day. I hardly knew what I was doing, I was so anxious and scared. But I managed to get on a train somehow, and I ended up in Bismarck, North Dakota, in the middle of winter. I just locked myself up in a hotel room, and I didn't see anyone. Then, some people found me. Well, I guess I tried to kill myself, Helen. Oh, now don't sound so horrified, Helen. I didn't really mean it. It was just some half-hearted attempt I made with some sleeping medicine a doctor gave me. It's never gonna happen again. I've learned a lot since then. They took me to a big hospital, a mental institution. It scared me to go to such a place. But after I'd been there a while, I began to feel a lot different. They kept me there for 3 months, seeing a doctor and making pottery and sewing. I learned a lot from that doctor. Men don't scare me anymore like they did then. I didn't tell Mama, Helen. Imagine Mama getting a postcard saying, "Dear Mama, I'm in the loony bin. Love, Lila." Well, they'd had to take her to one too. No, I just wrote Mama I was visiting a friend up in North Dakota. I bet she wondered where I ever met anyone in North Dakota. But I guess Mama wondered about a lot of things in my life. I'm kind of relieved she's dead now. I don't feel I have to account to anyone anymore. See, this doctor, he made me see things a lot differently. He said immature people expect the whole world to be rosy. When they have to face reality, it looks hard and ugly. So I don't expect so much a laugh anymore. And I've been getting along just fine. I don't fight things like I used to. I've learned to take things as they come and always make the best of them. We just gotta make the best of it. Thank you.
Hello, and to be culturally diverse, bonjour, hola, potentially konnichiwa, and most probably ni hao. I'm going to be doing a piece called, it's not called Rent, it's from Rent. It's called Over the Moon, and essentially it's a protest, but the terms that I'm protesting don't really apply to a world that's outside of fiction. However, I'm sure that by some stretch of the mind you could use it to apply to some sort of industrialization or, modernization, cities, skyscrapers, etc. Last night, I had a dream. I found myself in a desert called Cyberland. It was hot. My canteen had sprung a leak and I was thirsty. Out of the abyss walked a cow. Elsie. I asked if she had anything to drink, and she said, "I am forbidden to produce milk. In Cyberland, we only drink Diet Coke." They've closed everything real down, like barns, troughs, performance spaces, and replaced it all with lies, rules, virtual reality. But there is a way out. The only thing to do is jump over the moon. I've got to get out of here. It's like I'm being tied to the hood of a yellow rental truck, being packed in with fertilizer and fuel, pushed over the side of a cliff by a suicidal Mickey Mouse. I've got to find a way to jump over the moon. Then a little bulldog entered. His name, we have learned, was Benny. And although he once had principles, he abandoned them to live as a lapdog to a wealthy daughter of the revolution. "That's bull," he said. "Ever since the cat took up the fiddle, that cow's been a little jumpy. In addition, the spoon were evicted from the table and eloped. That cow's had trouble with the milk and the moon ever since. Maybe it's one of those female things. 'Cause who'd want to leave Cyberland anyways? Walls ain't so bad. The dish and the spoon, for instance, they were down on their luck, came knocking on my doghouse door, and I said, 'Not in my backyard utensils. Go back to China.' The only way out is up," Elsie whispered in my ear. "A leap of faith. Still thirsty? Parched. Have some milk." And I lowered myself beneath her and pressed my mouth to her swollen udder and sucked the sweetest milk I had ever tasted. "Climb on board," she said, and as a harvest moon rose over Cyberland, we reared back, sprang into a gallop, leaping, jumping out of orbit. And I awoke singing, "The only thing to do is jump over the moon." Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lucas. I'm going to be reciting Beethoven by Shane Koizan. Shane Koizan is a spoken word artist, and if you like Shane Koizan, he's going to be here tomorrow night performing at the Youth Addressing Local Poverty Conference. So if you're interested in that, then you should look into going. Okay, here goes. Listen, his father made a habit out of hitting him. See, some men drink, some men yell, some men hit their children. This man did it all because I guess all men want their boys to be geniuses. Beethoven, little boy living in a house where a name meant nothing, living in a house where mercy had to be earned to each perfect note, tumbling up through the roof to tickle the toes of angels whose harps couldn't hold half the passion that was held in the hands of a young boy who was hard of hearing. Beethoven, who heard his father's anthem every time he put finger to ivory, it was not good enough. So he played slowly, not good enough. So he played softly, not good enough. So he played strongly. And we could play no more, his fingers cramped up like the gnarled roots of tree trunks, it was not good enough. Beethoven, a musician without his most precious tool, his eardrums, could no longer pound out the rhythms for the symphonies that were playing in his mind, couldn't hear the audience clapping, couldn't hear the people loving him, couldn't hear the women in the front row whispering. As they let his music invade their nervous system like an armada, marching through firing cannonballs, detonating every molecule in their body with explosions of heavenly sensation, each note leaving track marks over every inch of their body, making them ache for one more hit. He was an addiction, and kings, queens, it didn't matter. The man got down on his knees for no one, but amputated the legs of his piano so he could feel the vibrations through the floor. The man got down on his knees for music. And when the orchestra played his symphonies, it was the echoes of his father's anthem repeating itself like a broken record. It was not good enough. So they played slowly, not good enough. So they played softly, not good enough. So they played strongly, not good enough. So they tried to mock the man, make fun of the madness by mimicking the movements of their bows, holding them a quarter of an inch above the strings, not making a sound. It was perfect. See, the death of an intimacy with silence. It's there in their dreams. And the musicians turned to one another, not knowing what to make of the man, trying to calculate the distance between madness and genius, realizing that Beethoven's musical measurements could take you the distances reaching past the towers of Babylon, turning solar systems into symbols that crashed together, causing comets to collide, creating crescendos so loud they shook the constellations until the stars began to fall from the sky, and it looked like the entire universe began to cry. Distance must be an illusion. The man must be a genius. Beethoven, his thoughts moving at the speed of sound, transforming emotion into music. And for a moment, it was like joy was a tangible thing, like you could touch it. Like for the first time, we could watch love and hate dance together in a waltz of such precision and beauty that we finally understood that history wasn't important. To know the man, all we ever had to do was listen.
Hi, I'm Lydia Kenzie. Today I will be reciting a poem by Billy Collins called Litany. It's a gentle satire about literature's enthusiastic use of comparisons in love poetry. You are the bread and the knife, the crystal goblet and the wine. You are the dew on the morning grass and the burning wheel of the sun. You are the white apron of the baker and the marsh birds suddenly in flight. However, you are not the wind in the orchards, the plums on the counter, or the house of cards. And you are certainly not the pine-scented air. There is just no way that you are the pine-scented air. It is possible that you are the fish under the bridge, maybe even the pigeon on the general's head, but you are not even close to being the field of cornflowers at dusk. And a quick look in the mirror will show that you are neither the boots in the corner nor the boat asleep in its boathouse. It might interest you to know, speaking of the plentiful imagery of the world, that I am the sound of rain on the roof. I also happen to be the shooting star, the evening paper blowing down an alley, and the basket of chestnuts on the kitchen table. I am also the moon in the trees, and the blind woman's teacup. But
don't worry. I am not the bread and the knife. You are still the bread and the knife. You will always be the bread and the knife. Not to mention the crystal goblet and somehow the wine.
Hi, I'm Ethan Otto, and I'll be performing The Gentleman monologue from Eugene O'Neill's Thirst. Do you remember when the crash came? We were all in the salon, and you were singing. A Cockney song, I think. You were very beautiful. I remember a woman to my right saying, "How pretty she is. I wonder if she's married." Strange how some idiotic remark like that will stick in one's head and all else is vague and confused. A tragedy happens, and we are in the midst of it. And one of my clearest remembrances afterwards is that idiotic remark that could have been overheard on any subway train. You were very beautiful. Then came the crash. That horrible, dull crash. We were all just thrown forward onto the floor of the salon. Then screams, oaths, fainting women. The hollow boom of the bulkhead giving way. All of a sudden, I was on the deck, fighting in the midst of a crowd. I found my way onto a lifeboat, but it was overloaded and it swamped immediately. I quickly swam to another lifeboat. They beat me off with the oars, but it was no good trying because it was sank a moment later. Something huge rushed by me in the water, leaving a gleaming trail of phosphorescence behind it. A woman near me in a lifebelt let out an agonizing scream and just disappeared. That's when I realized, sharks. I became frenzied with terror. I beat the water with my fists, anything to get it away. The ship had sank now. I swam and swam and swam and swam with one thought in mind: to put all of the horror behind me. Something white appeared before me on the water. I clutched it, climbed on it. It was this life raft. You and he were on it. I fainted. This whole thing is just a horrible nightmare in my head. But I still remember clearly that idiotic remark of the woman in the saloon. How pretty she is. I wonder if she's married. What pitiful creatures we are. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Anita, and my recitation is from a short story called Desire by Beyond Brandon.
Desire is the discovery that beauty is miraculous. Desire in the face of ruin. How in those lines there is such wreckage, and that too is beauty. How in those lines there is such clear-eyed dread, such deeply mocking knowledge, and that too is desire. How those lines read beauty and desire into any given night, in any place. Rural rum shop, trailer park wasteland, sports bar, piss and beer reeking alley, beauty walks in. Even with history against you, in any hardscrabble place, beauty walks in. The ruin of history upon a people does not wipe out the steadfastness of beauty. It is not a naive beauty, but a hard one. Beauty, it seems, is constantly being created. It is both fortunate and unfortunate, surprising. For some, to find beauty is to search through ruin. For some of us, beauty must be created over and over out of the sometimes dangerous, sometimes fragile. To write is to be involved in the act of translation, of succumbing to fragility and danger, to lean into another body's idiom. Some years ago, a young man, surely on his way to ruin, stumbled into the street in a square in Amsterdam. The night was approaching, and I watched him from a distance. His figure was in anguish and discomfort. It was as if he wanted to be and not to be in the square. He was in a kind of despair that I had never before experienced, and even then only experienced through his coming into the street. My despair was a private kind, but his despair was public and private all at once. His hesitation, his drifting, this was beauty. I watched that young man drop into the square like a drop of water in an ocean. That is, I saw his body, his back half turned towards me, his foot hovering before he stepped off of the curb. His anguish was beauty. His face whipping around in search of someone, yet his seemingly disinterest in people. The glaze over his eyes, yet their sharpness in seeking out the thing, that someone he so desperately wanted. He in of himself was a gesture, the thing that writers envy. I envied it. I wanted to pour myself into his grief and despair, but only for a second, only long enough to feel its texture. And then I wanted to run away to my uncomplicated hotel room and my yet uncomplicated page. Perhaps to desire is to complicate. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ben Parker, and tonight I'll be reciting an excerpt from Charlie Chaplin's film, The Great Dictator. In this part of the film, the protagonist impersonates the evil dictator, and he takes full advantage of the situation. I'm sorry. I don't want to be an emperor. That's not my business. I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. I should like to help everyone. Jew, Gentile, black man, white. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. We want to live by each other's happiness, not misery. We don't want to hate one another. In this world, the good earth is rich and can provide for everyone. The way of life can be free and beautiful, but we have lost the way. Greed has poisoned men's souls, has barricaded society with hate, has goose-stepped us into bloodshed. We have developed speed, but have shut ourselves in. The abundance of machinery has left us in want. Our knowledge has made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, kindness. Without these qualities, the way of life will become violent, and all will be lost. The airplane and the radio have brought us closer together. These inventions cry out for the goodness in men, cry out for universal brotherhood, for the unity of us all. Even now, my voice is reaching millions. Millions of despairing men, women, and children, victims of a system that makes men torture and imprison innocent people. To those who hear me now, I say, do not despair, for the misery upon us now is but the passing of grief. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ava Grant, and I will be reciting a poem by Aaron Egan called These United Nations. In Argentina, there are women who wear white dresses like Marilyn Monroe. They drink roses steeped in honey for breakfast and tango with the tourists, heavy with cowboy boots and tie-dyed wives who weave pony beads pink as hard candy through their hair. These are the days of sand and bubblegum, of children begging on the streets for a peso. Hollywood actors think they know them, go on location in France, float on barges in the River Seine, and make films about the suffering of the poor in Haiti. The president commends their efforts. He flies in his private jet to an embassy far away where there are camels and oil. We say we believe in things like justice, liberty, and fast food chains, but the papers say obesity is the real killer now. And St. Nicholas scoffs back hamburgers by the fireside. Fat in our minds, he wears red while Japanese children sell their bodies so they might die as happy and wicked as us. Our girls crave the skin-arid bones of the desert, the smoothness of a back made in Rwanda. They will follow these dieting instructions up through their tonsils, a cup of dried millet raised to quivering lips, Evian water bottled in a time where we cannot remember the definition for body or love. And still the powerful win, blood on their tongues, oil on their striped Armani jackets, gold dust and good Cuban cigars in the pockets of their worldly trousers. The wasteland of the Amazon is growing. It is crawling back into the mountains where families made of ice knit sweaters for Canadians with their teeth. Ecuadorian clothing packaged tightly in orange box crates. We say we want this life, the freedom to die at higher elevations, to watch our breath cloud on glass windows anywhere but here. Silver minnows swim the canals all the way from Europe, something exotic tucked away in the remote corner of a tinker's shop. We are hypnotized by the thickness of dust, the scent of marijuana leaves mixed with cinnamon incense shipped in cigarette packages all the way from China. We thought we knew the trade routes, these United Nations, the way the forest glistens after a night of rain. Thank you.
My name is Emily Jordan, and I will be reciting a monologue from My Name is Still Alice by Kate Sheen, which is entitled Non-Bridled Passion. Here we find an unmarried young woman attempting to register at a bridal register.
Excuse me, are you the registry consultant? Well, I'm here to register for gifts. This is a really big step for me. I'm very excited. I'll bet you hear that a lot, don't you? When is the happy event? Oh, you mean wedding date?
There isn't one. I'm not getting married. I'll probably never get married.
But I need things. And I think that registering is a good way for me to learn to receive. Yes, I know this is a bridal registry and that you only register brides. Frankly, I find that a bit discriminatory. I'm here to register and I really don't want any hassle. No, don't be the manager. I'm not trying to cause trouble. Look, for months now I've been buying gifts for all my friends who've been getting married. It's an epidemic. There's been a slew of weddings lately, not to mention showers. And I've attended all of them, brought gifts to every event. It's not that I begrudge them their happiness, not at all. I'm a very supportive person. It's just that lately I've been feeling like something's a little off balance, sort of out of whack. And the other day while I was attaching tiny silver bells to a spice rack for my friends Howie and Wendy, this voice inside my head started screaming at me. It said, "Shamuck,
Why do you keep buying presents for people who've already found everything they want? Or words to that effect, I don't remember exactly. I do recall that the voice sounded resentful, and I had to agree with it. I mean, is it enough that they already found each other, that they fell in love and made a commitment, that they'll be splitting the rent and filing jointly? My God, they found someone who'll give them a foot massage whenever they want. They've already won the sweepstakes. Why did they get the door prizes too? Why do they get to register for things like a cookie jar shaped like a giant eggplant, or a set of really good knives? They're becoming a two-income family, for Christ's sake. Why can't they buy their own knives? Now then, I need things. I'm not getting married, and I need things. I need better towels, matching luggage, a pasta machine, and sterling silver candlesticks. Ever since I was 5 years old, my grandmother promised me hers the day I got married. Well, I did get married, and last month they went to Cousin Marcy, who did. Why do you only get family heirlooms if you wed? It's no damn fair. Candlesticks, put me down for 2 pairs. Come on, just do it. You already registered Ann and Dina, Becky, Jane, and Cindy. I insist on registering too. I know I'm single. I confront that fact every day of my life. It's fine. I like it. But I'm not staying single without the same material goods as my married friends. No. My ship is coming in if I have to tow it in myself.
Salam, my name is Alkiran Amara, and I'll be reciting Lauren Hill's Forgive Them, Father. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Beware the false motives of others. Be careful of those who pretend to be brothers. You never suppose it's those who are closest to you. To you they say nice things to gain their position, using your kindness as their ammunition to shoot you down in the name of ambition. Oh, they do. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Why is it that every Indian desires to be the chief? Feed a man till he's full, but he still craves beef. Give me grief, trying to thief off my peace. Why for you to increase must I decrease? Why for you to increase must I decrease? You hear me speak and think I won't take it to the streets. Ha! But I know enough cats who don't turn the other cheek. But I keep it civilized like Menelik and other African czars, observing stars with war scars. And you'll get yours too in this capitalistic system. So many Cotterbots you can't even list them. To survive is to stay alive in the face of opposition. Even when they come in gunning, I stand positioned. And when I let go, oh, my voice, it echoes through the ghetto, 'cause I'm sick of men trying to pull strings like Geppetto. And why is it that colored people always be the ones to settle, marching through these streets like Soweto? Like Cain, Abel, Caesar and Brutus, Jesus and Judas. Backstabbers, they do this. And it took me a while to discover wolves in sheepskin who pretend to be lovers, men who lack conscience, will even lie to themselves. To themselves, a friend once told me, and I found it to be true, that everyday people, they lie to God too. So what makes you think that they won't lie to you? Love them, even when they rip you to shreds, trample upon your heart, and leave you half dead. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. For they know not what they do. Thank you.
I'm Becca, and I'm going to be reciting Kim Cutledge's monologue from Grey Matter by Josh Wexler. My name is Kim Cutledge, and I am broken. I'm not really broken, like a tree becomes broken in a tropical storm, or the way an egg becomes broken when it's dropped to the floor before it can be put in the omelet. I am broken like a bone, painfully, and somewhat grotesque to look at, but under the right conditions and with proper care, I will heal. What I mean to say is, I'm a poet. Really, I am. Listen to this. It's a love poem. Excuse me, but if you would, give me the chance. I think I could do what I need to make you feel good. What? No applause? Now you see what I'm talking about. Broken. I wasn't even blessed with being tortured. Poe and Dante were tortured. I am simply ineffectual and unloved. Now, I know what you're thinking. Who would not love you? The answer is the source of my pain and the reason I cannot heal. I do not love me. I'm like that one guy from that one 80s movie. I do everything that everyone else tells me to do. On the plus side, nothing's ever my fault. I can always point the finger at someone else. On the downside, I talk to myself a lot. Like now, for example, none of you are real. I bet you didn't know that. And I kind of hate to break it to you, because I'm sure you think you're real, but I just made every one of you up. That's gotta be depressing. Don't worry about it. You'll cease to exist as soon as I've finished thinking about you. But you want to know the worst part? Would Keanu Reeves please stand up? See? He's not here. He's never here. I'm so broken that I can't even control my own hallucinations, even after I've accepted the fact that they are hallucinations. I should probably see a psychiatrist about this. I'm pretty sure it's not normal. I'm sure he'd tell me it's advanced, projected schizophrenia or something. I'm sure he'd ask me, do you occasionally feel like you're on stage? And I'd say no. But he'd see through it, as he'd be a good psychiatrist, and I'd never go see a bad one. And so I'd admit to occasionally feeling like I was on stage. And he'd ask me if I'd like to see Keanu Reeves appear. And I'd deny that too. But he'd see through it again. And so I'd tell him that Keanu never showed, with or without his Matrix costume. And I'd ask him how he knew. And he'd tell me that it's a pretty common thing. He used to go through something similar. It's hero worship gone horribly awry. Something about not having the confidence to want to see someone actually interested. All I'd have to do to avoid these kinds of things was to have some confidence. Believe in myself. That's it! Of course that's it! I can do that! I can love myself! I can! And I will. Right? Thanks.
Hi, I'm Dorothy, and I'll be reciting a short snippet of Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair. I say this to you today, my friends. And even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that in the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering in the heat of injustice, a state sweltering in the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of justice and freedom. I have a dream today that one day my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the contents of their character. I have a dream today. Down in Alabama, with its vicious racist and its governor having his lips dripping in the words of interposition and nullification. Down there in Alabama, little black boys and little black girls will be able to hold hands with little white girls and little white boys as brothers and sisters. I have a dream today that every valley shall be exalted, every hill and mountain shall be made low, the rough edges shall be made plain, the crooked edges shall be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. Thank you.
My name is Ariel, and today I'm going to perform a short poem by Naomi Shihadne. It's called Kindness. Before you know what kindness really is, you must lose things. Feel the future dissolve in a moment, like salt in a weakened broth. What you held in your hand, what you counted, carefully saved. All this must go, so you know how desolate the landscape can be, between regions of kindness. How you ride and ride, thinking the bus will never stop. The passengers eating maize and chicken will stare out the windows forever. Before you learn the tender gravity of kindness, you must travel to where the Indian in a white poncho lies dead by the side of the road. You must see how this could be you, how he too, with someone journeyed through nightless plans and a single breath that kept him alive. Before you learn kindness as the deepest thing inside, you must learn sorrow as the other deepest thing. You must wake up with sorrow. You must speak to it till your voice catches all thread of sorrow, and you see the size of the cloud. Then it is only kindness that makes sense anymore. Only kindness that ties your shoes, and kindness that sends you out into the day to mail letters and purchase bread. It is only kindness that rises its head from the crowd of the world to say, "It is I you've been looking for." Then follow you anywhere, like a shadow or a friend. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Isabella
Gudgeon, and I will be performing Unrequited Love Poem by Sierra de Mulder. This is on watching someone you love somebody else. You will be out with friends when the news of her existence is accidentally spilled all over your bar stool. Respond calmly, as if it is only a change in weather, a punchline you saw coming. After your fourth shot of cheap liquor, leave the image of him kissing another woman in the toilet. In the morning, when he calls you, ignore the hundreds of ropes untangling themselves in your stomach. You are the best friend again. When he invites you over for dinner, say yes too easily. Remind yourself, this isn't special. It's only dinner. Everyone has to eat. When he greets you at the door, do not think for 1 second you are the reason he wore cologne tonight. Someone told you once, a soulmate is not the person who makes you the happiest, but the one who makes you feel the most, who can conduct your heart to bang the loudest, who can drag you, giggling with forgiveness from the cellar they locked you in. It has always been him. In his kitchen, he will hand feed you a piece of red pepper. His laugh will be low and warm, and it will make you feel like candlelight. Do not think this is special. Do not count on your fingers the number of freckles you could kiss too easily. Try to think of pilot lights or olive oil and not everything you've ever loved about him, or will suddenly feel boiling and possible and so close. You will find her bobby pins lying innocently on the bathroom sink. Her bobby pins. They look like the wiry legs of spiders, splinters of her undressing in his bed. Do not say anything. Think of stealing them, of wearing them home in your hair. Across town, you will picture her pressing her fingers into his back like wet cement. You will wonder if she looks like you, if you are 2 bedrooms in the same house. Did he fall for her features like rearranged furniture? When he kisses her, does she taste like new paint? You want to call him. You go as far as holding the phone in your hand. Imagine telling him unimaginable things like, you are always ticking inside of me, and I dream of you more often than I don't. My body is a dead language, and you pronounce each word perfectly. Do not call him. Fall asleep to the hum of the VCR. She must make him happy. She must be his favorite place in Minneapolis. You are a souvenir shop, where he goes to remember how much people miss him when he's gone. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Cecilia,
And I'm Adam.
and we will be performing When Love Arrives.
These candles add a fun little element of danger.
And it's by Sarah Kay and Phil Kay. I knew exactly what love looked like in 7th grade. Even though I hadn't met love yet, if love had wandered into my homeroom, I would have recognized him at first glance. Love wore a hemp necklace.
I would have recognized her at first glance. Love wore a tight French braid.
Love played acoustic guitar and knew all my favorite Beatles songs.
Love wasn't afraid to ride the bus with me.
And I knew. I just must be searching the wrong classrooms.
Just must be checking the wrong hallways. She was there. I was sure of it.
If only I could find him.
But when love finally showed up, she had a bow cut.
He wore the same clothes every day for a week.
Love hated the bus.
Love didn't know anything about the Beatles. Instead,
every time I tried to kiss Love,
our teeth got in the way. Love became the reason I lied to my parents.
I'm going to Ben's house.
Love had terrible rhythm on the dance floor, but made sure we never missed a slow song.
Love waited by the phone, because she knew if her father picked up, it would be,
Hello? Hello? And love grew, stretched like a trampoline.
Love changed.
Love disappeared, slowly, like baby teeth, losing parts of me I thought I needed.
Love vanished. Like an amateur magician, everyone could see the trapdoor but me.
Like a flat tire, there were other places I had planned on going, but my plans didn't matter. Love stayed away for years. And when love finally reappeared, I barely recognized him.
Love smelled different now, had darker eyes.
A broader back. Love came with freckles I didn't recognize.
New birthmarks, a softer voice.
Now, there were new sleeping patterns.
New favorite books.
Love had songs that reminded him of someone else.
Songs love didn't like to listen to.
So did I.
But we found a park bench that fit us perfectly.
We found jokes that make us laugh.
And now, love makes me fresh homemade chocolate chip cookies.
But love will probably finish most of them for midnight snack.
Love looks great in lingerie. But still likes to wear her retainer.
Love is a terrible driver, but a great navigator.
Love knows where she's going. It might just take her 2 hours longer than she planned.
Love is messier now.
Not as simple.
Love uses the word boobs in front of my parents.
Love chews too loud.
Love leaves the cap off the toothpaste.
Love uses smiley faces in her text messages.
And turns out,
love shits.
But love also cries. And love will tell you you are beautiful.
And mean it.
Over and over again.
You are beautiful.
When you first wake up.
You are beautiful.
When you've just been crying.
You are beautiful.
When you don't want to hear it.
You are beautiful.
When you don't believe it.
You are beautiful.
When nobody else will tell you.
You are beautiful.
Love still thinks you are beautiful.
But love is not perfect, and will sometimes forget.
When you need to hear it most,
You are beautiful.
Do not forget this.
Love is not who you're expecting. Love is not who you can predict.
Maybe love is in New York City, already asleep. You are in California, Australia, wide awake. Maybe love is always in the wrong time zone.
Maybe love is not ready for you. Maybe you are not ready for love.
Maybe love just isn't the marrying type.
Maybe the next time you see love is 20 years after the divorce. Love is older now, but just as beautiful as you remembered.
Maybe love is only there for a month.
Maybe love is there for every firework, every birthday party, every hospital visit.
Maybe love stays.
Maybe love can't.
Maybe love shouldn't.
Love arrives exactly when love is supposed to. And love leaves exactly when love must.
When love arrives, say, welcome. Make yourself comfortable.
If love leaves, ask her to leave the door open behind her.
Turn off the music. Listen to the quiet.
Whisper.
Thank you for stopping by.
Every year I am amazed. And I am amazed again this year. What a wonderful celebration of language. And now, I think we give them all another round of applause. And if I could prevail upon Mr. Snowden to accompany us here, I will read out the names, and we will distribute the certificates and the names. And I will put on my... Kira Kawaguchi. Williams Chen. Sophie George. Simone Ingstrom. Cindy Kim. Michelle Song. Molly Ross. Jordan Kerr. Jenny Hall. Noelle Skilling. Douglas Peerless. Sarah Jones. Jerry Chen. Sophie Butterfield. Flora Fang. Christina Sipos. Katrina Gordon-Poe. Claire Williams. Dylan Tom. Lucas Simpson. Lydia Kenzie. Ethan Otto. Amita Simons. Ben Parker. Aoife Grant. Emily Jordan. Kalkadan Amar. Becca Thompson. Dorothy Igbinosa. Ariel Zhu. Isabella Gudgeon. Adam Chan and Cecilia A request to all participants to stay for a moment afterwards for a group photo, please. And thank you all for coming out again to this wonderful evening.